Greetings all! Today we will be examining the relatively common rock-type Pokemon Roggenrola, the Mantle Pokémon, its relatively uncommon evolution Boldore, the Ore Pokémon, and its final rare evolution Gigalith, the Compressed Pokémon. Though the forms might be awkward and alien to some, the members of the Roggenrola family are powerful creatures that can more than prove to be a notable physical threat when put into an agitated state.
Roggenrola have semi-spherical, faceted blue bodies with a single pair of brown, digitaless feet and a large horn-like projection of the same color that is used as a compass. Their body only has a single other main feature, a large hole with a yellow rim that is used as a vibration amplifier that allows them to see through sound. The evolved form Boldore have a more crab-like shape to them, with two vibration amplifiers on their front, a rigid rock material on the front of their body like a face crest, and a trio of limbs on the corners of their frame that are used for locomotion. Various parts of their body are also covered in brightly colored orange crystals, formed from their energy core leaking outwards. Their final evolution, Gigalith, follow the same body color and crystal adornment as their pre-evolved form, though with more crystals, a discernible mouth, and a more cone-shaped torso. They have 4 legs that are used for locomotion, but are able to wield them more efficiently than in their prior evolution, thanks to thick grey stone rods that pivot both in the socket where they join the torso and in their feet, allowing for them to gain traction over nearly any solid surface. Roggenrola and the evolutions first appeared over 100 years ago when a major earthquake in the Unova region opened up a fissure along an ancient fault. The opening of the fault was probably the first time these creatures had ever been exposed to the surface, so it's no surprise that they rushed to it in large droves to see it clearly. Within a few weeks, these organisms started appearing in places all over North America in ridiculously large numbers, with additional populations later being found in multiple regions. The reason behind their sudden appearance, however, is still a complete mystery. Though they still prefer to live inside of dark caves, this seems to only be because the sensory components, which operate on sound, work better in closed spaces. Open spaces easily confuse Roggenrola, but their evolutions are far more adaptable to such environments. Even so, it is best for trainers to keep an eye on their Pokémon at all times and try not to use them when outside too much, as they can become disoriented and lose the ability to focus the direction of their attacks.
For reasons that are still not completely understood, the energy cores within Roggenrola become somewhat unstable close to and above the planet's surface. When too much energy is injected into them, they are unable to maintain their form and begin to leak out of their carriers.
In order to compensate for this rapid loss of core material, Roggenrola use their core's internal pressure to fuse nearby rocks to their bodies, physically transforming themselves into Boldore. While this accretion is enough to contain their expanding energy core, it isn't a perfect process, as some of their internal core does make it to the surface of their body, especially when they are healthy, as the core tends to stick out more so than normal at full strength, and hardens in the presence of a relatively colder atmosphere, forming dazzling crystals in the process that are hard enough to crush diamonds. These crystals are permanently stuck inside of Boldore and cannot be removed very easily, which has made the black market for the crystals extremely lucrative. Despite their unstable appearance, Boldore are normally capable of surviving in the wild completely unchanged for their entire lives, never evolving at all. In the presence of certain energy fields, however, such as those present within trading devices, and especially observed in cavern systems deep below the surface, their energy cores completely destabilize and begin expanding again, forcing Boldore to restructure themselves once again to contain the rapidly expanding energy core, their bodies becoming hyper-condensed in the process to contain it. This instantly transforms Boldore into Gigalith, and just as with the evolution of Roggenrola into Boldore, the incomplete process results in the growth of even more large crystals all over their body, among other changes. Despite these transformations, the entire Roggenrola family is quite similar in terms of overall combat attributes, as they are all able to take nasty hits without being totally destroyed, granting them sturdy as a base ability, and they can all have the potential to use buffering sandstorms to amplify their power levels, having Sand Force as a hidden ability.
However, it is noted that while the rocky forms of Roggenrola and Boldore can be potentially weakened and damaged through direct contact, providing them with weak armor as another base ability, the super compressed bodies of Gigalith instead allow them to use their interior to rattle and spew out massive clouds of dust from the seemingly impenetrable bodies, granting them Sandstream as a base ability in place of weak armor.
As far as the stats are concerned, as one might expect, these creatures are all about physical attributes and show great promise in this manner, their base HP, attack, and defense stats all being above average for a fully evolved Rock-type Pokemon, while the base special attack, special defense, and speed stats are all below average, giving them a form that can only readily deal with physical combatants, but can nonetheless prove to be a force to fear in those regards. To say the least, Roggenrola are hard. To be more precise, every bit of their body is as hard as steel, oftentimes leading many to compare the hardness of their bodies to other Rock-type Pokemon like Geodude and Carbink, and this is the result of centuries-old dirt undergoing intense compression underground. Though the structure of the packing of this dirt means that these creatures will soften up if they are left in water for an extended period of time. As amazing as it may sound, this is because Roggenrola and the evolutions are made completely out of rock and possess no organic tissue whatsoever, not even in so much as a simple nerve cluster. It is believed that Roggenrola and the evolutions represent a rare example of natural self-animation. That is to say, they are organisms that were brought to life by non-biological and non-spiritual means. Inside each of these creatures is a highly pressurized core of molten rock and metal. By absorbing charged particles caught in the Earth's magnetic field, these cores are able to generate large quantities of energy continuously without cooling down, with the animation and warming of the surrounding rock being a side effect of the process. Roggenrola and the evolutions are by no means the most intelligent of creatures, but by using the stone projection on their heads as a compass and the hexagonal orifice on their body as a vibration amplifier and sensor, which takes the place of both ears and eyes, and duly is not something to stick one's hand in if they don't wish to anger their owner, they can get around in battle just fine, though they have a habit of mindlessly moving towards anything they hear without thinking much and will panic and topple over if they cease to hear any sound at all. This is particularly impressive in light of their inability to otherwise communicate with others outside reversing the flow of their soul orifice to create a hollow cry.
In comparison to the relatively docile Roggenrola, sound-sensitive Boldore can often be quite menacing and sometimes territorial depending on past human activity in an area.
While Roggenrola may have nothing more than their hard bodies to attack with, Boldore make a point to prove themselves in battle by attacking fiercely with the jagged crystals that grow out of their bodies and staring down their target, facing them frontways every time and using back and forth crab-like movements in battle as they charge towards their foes without ever changing direction. Since the crystals grow back if they are damaged, so long as they are not completely removed, this sort of brutish combat style works fine for them. As a result of the concentrated energies within their cores, these crystals will glow when Boldore are preparing an energy attack and contain natural energies that can do anything from running a car to purifying a body of negative energy and disease, if you care to believe in such things, and a single crystal has enough energy packed into it to power 100 dump trucks. While efforts have been made to protect Boldore from being mined, their relative commonness makes enforcing any protection laws extremely difficult. This directly ties in with their ability to learn and utilize the Power Gem attack immediately after evolving, and, although the low base special attack stat prevents them from doing much with it, their unique spin on the attack might actually have some secondary effects. When Boldore charge the crystals on them to use the attack, the crystals glow because they are absorbing energy straight from their core. As a result of this unique power source, the charged particles involved in their Power Gem attack can cause temporary radiation sickness if their opponent is non-physically strong enough to resist the effects. Draining their energy core can be dangerous, however, so Boldore will often seek out water within caves to restore their health because the water can be broken down within their cores to produce fuel for further nuclear reactions to sustain their core temperature, though they must be careful about how they consume it to avoid damaging their forms.
It is currently unknown why Gigalith transform into quadrupeds upon evolving, but the most likely reasoning is adaptation to habitat. Since Gigalith tend to congregate outside of caves rather than inside them, 4 legs are more useful on rocky terrain for traction purposes.
What is clear is that evolution makes Gigalith highly territorial and extremely dangerous to be around. Gigalith will often keep watch over the area that they inhabit, protecting younger Boldore and Roggenrola from harm. If human activity begins to disturb the lives of existing Boldore and Roggenrola, Gigalith will gladly destroy the source of the disturbance without any compassion. As a result of their immense strength, though, These creatures are often popular among construction workers and miners alongside Pokemon like Cabaraja for demolition work, though trying to employ wild specimens for work tasks rarely ever goes too well.
Although their relatively low base special attack stat may prevent Gigalith from utilizing special attacks with any efficiency, there is one crowning exception to this rule.
When exposed to direct sunlight, the crystals on Gigalith begin to store solar energy extremely rapidly and efficiently. This energy is then transferred directly into their energy core, charging it to extremely unstable levels. Gigalith are different from Roggenrola and Boldore though, because they can directly harness the energy within their cores without lasting side effects. As such, by compressing, magnifying, and focusing the solar energy gathered from the crystals in their mouths, Gigalith are able to utilize the devastatingly powerful solar beam attack with a bit of practice, formed into the shape of a sphere. However, their version of the attack has a unique twist to it. Though the damage it deals as a grass-type move is still relatively low in comparison to most other fully evolved Pokemon, the actual energy output of the attack is extremely high. To put it simply, their version of the solar beam attack works somewhat like a shotgun, with its power at maximum when fired at close range. At minimum range, a Gigalith's solar beam attack is capable of nearly vaporizing an entire mountain. The only issue with this, aside from the inability to utilize the attack when the sun isn't visible, is that Gigalith do have to be quite close to their opponents for the attack to deal significant damage, which, considering their extremely low base speed stat, is definitely not an easy feat. In addition, when they use this attack with all of their might, the energy released is so potent that it leaves countless fissures over their body, leaving them slightly more brittle than normal and thus vulnerable to damage until they can fuse rock material to their bodies to fix themselves. Nonetheless, this should be taken into account when fighting against a Gigalith and should be remedied by remaining as far away from them as physically possible, a tactic best used regardless to avoid their powerful physical strikes.
While a lot of rock-type Pokemon similar to these creatures have substantial power behind them, the members of this family have no need for organic sustenance and can in turn prove to be more resilient than you might think at first glance. While they can be fun to play with at a young age, the older evolutions of this family are nasty customers that can be hard for even veteran trainers to maintain complete control over. This really comes down to the fact that they really can't see without sound, and given how noisy battles can often get, they can be prone to attacking anything that makes a sound they don't like. However, despite this, and despite the fact that they genuinely lack a brain, these creatures are surprisingly curious and seem to show a fairly strong level of intelligence, even more so than Pokemon like Golem, and thus can be trained readily and made into loyal companions, though only listen to the sound of your voice and not dare to follow the directions of anyone else speaking to them.
While they might not provide the same kind of warmth that an organic organism might be able to provide, the members of the Roggenrola family are nonetheless able to give their own form of warmth, even if that's only due to their energized core. You might have to put in some time and effort to get the most out of them, but these rocky beasts can more than prove to be a serious threat if time and effort is invested to make them so.
Just do yourself a favor and make sure that you give them space and don't talk too loudly in front of them. That may be the only way they can see, but even they don't like loud noises and may give you a bone-shattering smack to your face just to get you to shut up.
Thank you all for watching this video. It is always a pleasure to help teach others about the world of Pokemon and the many facets of it that exist in both the world we call home and the world they call home. If you'd like, please leave a comment and subscribe and ring the bell to this channel to get regular updates on content and anything else that might be going on. You can find me and my written work on DeviantArt under the name Utitus and be informed of information and content uploads on my Twitter page and my Patreon page. Donations are always welcome. Always remember, the world of Pokemon is a vast and varied place, and there's no telling what secrets might be hiding just around the corner. So keep watch, stay vigilant, and always prepare for the unexpected. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.